Okay, hello, my name is Dom, and I'm going to be taking you through a lesson today on English literature, Shakespeare. We're looking at Macbeth, Act 1, Scene 5. So I'm going to run through a few different ways of looking at this text that you might be presented with in your exam, and considering the different things that the examination paper might ask you, and how we can analyse the text and pull out some very, very interesting themes and ways of looking at the piece that they'll show you, and the play overall. So, Act 1, Scene 5, one of my favourite speeches of all time. Give you a bit of context on this. So, as you know, Lady Macbeth has just received a letter from her husband, Lord Macbeth, telling her about the Three Witches' prophecy and that King Duncan will be coming to stay at their castle tonight. So, let's read the text together, and we will then take it apart afterwards, just so we're completely sure and firm of what's going on here, what's been said, what's being done, so that we understand it thoroughly and we're on a very solid footing to then launch into the analysis. So, here we go. I'll read it. Lady Macbeth. The raven himself is hoarse, that croaks the fatal entrance of Duncan under my battlements. Come, you spirits that tend on mortal thoughts, unsex me here, and fill me from the crown to the toe top full of direst cruelty. Make thick my blood. Stop up the access and passage to remorse, that no compunctious visitings of nature shake my fell purpose, nor keep peace between the effect and it. Come to my woman's breasts, and take my milk for gall, you murdering ministers, wherever in your sightless substances you wait on nature's mischief. Come, thick night, and pall thee in the dunnest smoke of hell, that my keen knife see not the wound it makes, nor heaven peep through the blanket of the dark to cry hold. Hold. Okay, so let's just make sure that we totally understand what is going on in this piece. Let's read it through and I'll break it down line by line for you. So, the raven himself is hoarse, that croaks the fatal entrance of Duncan under my battlements. Now, does anybody know does the person I'm talking to know what the raven classically symbolises? Symbolises death. Okay, so if the raven is outside of the castle, croaking his head off, and he's croaked so much, symbolised death so much, that he's lost his voice, or he's losing his voice. So he's losing his voice because he's marking the fatal entrance of Duncan, the king, under my battlements. So the raven is going crazy outside because Duncan is coming, and it marks Duncan's death. Then she says, come, you spirits that tend on mortal thoughts, unsex me here. So who is she talking to here? She's talking to the spirits that tend on mortal thoughts. Now, that obviously, what does that imply about Lady Macbeth? If she's really talking to the spirits that tend on mortal thoughts, then she must, what? She must really believe in the spirits that tend on mortal thoughts. So tend on mortal thoughts. What does it mean to tend on mortal thoughts? So mortals would be humans, right? And we have thoughts. Does anybody ever have certain desires that they wish that they would be able to fulfill? Well, in those days, the spirits that tend on mortal thoughts might be able to give you what you want, as we shall see. So she's asking the spirits that tend on mortal thoughts to unsex me here. What does unsex mean? Or what sex is she? That's right, she's a woman. So she's asking the spirits that tend on mortal thoughts to unsex her, to take away her womanhood, her femininity. And what's she asking them to do as well? And fill me from the crown to the toe top full of direst cruelty. So she's asking them to exchange that femininity, that womanhood, to be filled from the crown, the head, to the toe, full of direst cruelty. So take my womanhood, make me cruel. Make thick my blood. Stop up the access and passage to remorse. So stop me from feeling any remorse or guilt. That no compunctious visitings of nature shake my fell purpose. So she's saying there, compunctious visitings of nature, visitings from conscience. It's anything that would make her feel bad about what she wants to do. Shake my fell purpose. So something that would stop her from her swift and deadly intent. Nor keep peace between the effect and date. Okay. Come to my woman's breasts and take my milk for gall. So milk symbolizes what? Motherhood. And what is gall? It's bile. So give me something bitter and give me something bitter, and I'll give you something sweet. You murdering ministers. Wherever in your sightless substances you wait on nature's mischief. So she's characterizing these spirits as these sightless, substanceless ministers that hang around waiting for mortals to get them involved in worldly affairs. In this case, killing a king. Come thick night and pall thee in the dunnest smoke of hell. So she's talking to the elements, to the night. Pall thee means to cover in the dunnest smoke of hell, so the cloudiest, murkiest, darkest smoke of hell. So come on, night, cover yourself in the dark smokes of hell, that my keen knife, this knife wants to do something, see not the wound it makes. So make it dark enough so I don't see what I'm doing. Nor heaven peep through the blanket of the dark to cry, hold, hold. So she's saying, make it so dark that even God can't stop me from doing it. Can't see what I'm doing. Cry, hold, hold. Okay, good. So that's quite a detailed analysis of what is going on in here. Now, what you might be asked to do in your exam, you might be asked to write about how Shakespeare presents Lady Macbeth in this speech. And you might also be then asked how how Shakespeare presents Lady Macbeth in the whole play. So, I think before we launch into how we present that, it's very important to get completely clear on what exactly is she doing here and why is she doing it. Because this will reveal so much about the character that we can then draw upon to answer these questions. But during this, we will hit upon these themes. So the themes to explore that we're going to look at is the role of women and womanhood in the setting of the play compared with today, power and status, attitudes towards the supernatural, the soul, heaven and hell, and we can also contrast these views and attitudes with our attitudes today. And 4, considering how Lady Macbeth's behaviour in the speech and the play would be received today versus when the play was set and when it was written. Because obviously when was it set? That's right, it's set in the 11th century, but when was it written? Good, it was written in the early 17th century. Okay, fantastic. So, I'm going to skip ahead to a couple of bits here because look, we're going to look at these key points to consider. How Lady Macbeth's actions influence the plot and how she changes over the course of the play. Now, here you might want to compare with what she does here with Act 3, Scene 2, where she tries to talk Macbeth out of more murder, plotting more murder, in this case Banquo. Act 1, Scene 5, where she's seen sleepwalking and washing her hands of Duncan's blood. Act 5, Scene 1. Act 5, Scene 5, where she's overcome by guilt and she kills herself. We might want to look at the action she's taking and the language she uses and what that reveals about her character. So let's look at what she's literally doing in this speech. I shouldn't have revealed this bit to you here because I would have asked you to look at it yourself. So what's she literally doing? She's saying, Duncan's coming, the ravens signalling that he's going to die. She talks to the spirits who tend on mortal thoughts. She asks them to take away her womanhood, and she asks her to fill them with cruelty and stop her feeling any remorse. And she asks the elements to get involved to stop heaven seeing what she's doing as well. So what is she literally doing? Let's be very, very specific about this, because this is our launch pad into the rest of our answer here. So she's literally what? She's literally asking the spirits that tend on mortal thoughts to exchange her womanhood for the power to kill the king. Pretty big, eh? So why would somebody do that? Why would she do it? Can you think why somebody might do that? Now, public opinion, popular opinion, tells us that she was motivated purely by power, but I think Shakespeare writes much more psychologically interesting and truthful characters than people who are just motivated just by power. There's always a reason why. Now, what do you think her motives are, and how can you support this? Now, is there room for interpretation here that she does it for love? If you look in Act 1, Scene 7, she says, she tells Macbeth, "I have given suck, and I know how tender it is to love the babe that milks me." Now, it's not explicitly mentioned in the play, but Macbeth and Lady Macbeth don't have any children. They had a child, and it died. Now, why might she want to kill Duncan? She wants to make Macbeth king. And she's given up the thing that's most precious to her, her womanhood, her femininity, in order for the power to be able to do that. Now, if that isn't love, I don't know what is. So this might be quite an interesting angle for you to look at with regards to the exam. Now, we're not going to have time to go into the rest of all of these different aspects in detail. I'm going to skip over them, and then we can talk about them in more detail if we had a full lesson. Okay, so how does she do what she does? She commands the spirits. She invokes them. She invokes the aids of the elements. She offers the spirits the perfect exchange, her body for the power to kill Duncan, because what is the one thing that spirits are lacking? Bodies. What does she not have? The power to kill Duncan. It's a perfect exchange. But if you look at the way that she talks to the spirits, she commands them. Remember, while Macbeth's away in battle, who runs the castle? She does. Exactly. So she's used to running a household, running a team of servants and maids and butlers and what have you. She's aristocracy. She commands. She tells people what to do. So this will give you more insight into her character, the way that she uses imperative language. Do this, do that, do this, do that. Okay. So we would look at the use of imagery in invoking the supernatural, heaven, hell, etc. So the raven being a symbol of death, the dunnest smoke of hell. You look at the imagery in that as well. Murdering ministers, the alliteration, and sightless substances. The alliteration, oh, I've made a spelling mistake there, excuse me. Heaven peep through the blanket of the dark to cry, hold, hold. I mean, it's just so rich, isn't it? And this tells you so much about her character. So, to sum up, what we would do, we would go through this all in detail, pulling out the different aspects that we've touched upon in the themes and the key points to consider. And we would look at how Shakespeare presents Lady Macbeth here in this speech, what she's doing, why she's doing it, how she does it, and what this says about her. And then we would track her character development and her role in the plot of the play, and how that changes across time, and what this says about her and about us. Because remember, Shakespeare's always writing about us. Okay, for now, that's it. Thanks for joining me.